why Fon and I left Australia and moved to Thailand. Why at the age of 50, I closed my business, sold everything that we owned, packed everything into a couple of suitcases and moved to Southeast Asia to start all over again. There's probably five key factors that contributed to us making the decision to move here. Look, first of all, why Thailand? Why Thailand? Look, it's the obvious choice. Fon is Thai, obviously. It allowed us, now I know when I say us, I really mean Fon, to own property here in Thailand. It allowed things like visas to be linked to our marriage and so forth. So there were more doors that were open for us here in... I just love when people merge right in front of you, like this far in front of you, without using their indicator. I mean, how hard is it just to reach over and flick that little lever? Anyway, so yeah, Thailand was the obvious choice because Fon is Thai. It just opened more doors for us here in Thailand than it would if we moved to somewhere like Vietnam or Bali or South America or something like that. We'd been in this business now for 11 years. So the last 12 months for me has been a little bit difficult. Not that the work was difficult, but that itch needed to be scratched of doing something different and challenging myself and going out and exploring more of the world. So throughout the last year, I'd been on Fon about, hey, you know, we should look at moving to Thailand, we should consider it. You know, Fon had done 16 years in Australia, and I sort of, my selling point to her was, hey, you've had your opportunity, you know, you've had the opportunity to live and work and build a business in another country. I want that same opportunity. It wasn't until we seriously looked into building this house in Perth and what that was going to cost us, and then I looked into what could we do with that money in Thailand, and we realized for the deposit we were going to spend, as I said, we could actually buy the house outright here. That pretty much sold her. She's like, you mean to tell me I don't need a 30-year debt and we can just buy a house now? I said, well, yes, that's exactly it. Once I explained that to her, she was pretty much sold. Cost of living in Australia is at an all-time high, and it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. There's currently a housing crisis, a well-documented and well-publicized housing crisis in Australia. Rental rates are at an all-time, rental availability rates are at an all-time low. Price to build or to buy a house is out of control. The fees associated, when we were looking to buy build a house, it was going to be about 700,000 Australian dollars an hour from the CBD. I think we're looking close to 50,000 Australian dollars in fees. That doesn't come off the price of the house. That's just gets given to the government for the privilege for you from us at 50 years of age to take out a 30-year loan, whereby that $700,000 home would end up costing us, I don't know, 1.2, 1.3 million by the time we paid the thing off over 30 years. We were never willing to submit ourselves to that kind of debt in Australia. So we used the deposit that we saved for the house that we were going to build in Australia. I think was about $160,000. We used that deposit to buy outright the property here in Thailand, right? Yeah, that's probably enough said right there. Enough said right there. Something I was really sick of and really tired of there in Australia is the bureaucratic red tape around business. You know, I remember contacting our local council at some stage. We wanted to expand our current operation. Oh my Lord, it was like I was asking for their firstborn. They made it so difficult to do that. And I said to them at one stage, I said, isn't your role, isn't your business or your remit to encourage small business, help small business prosper, not be a deterrent, not put up barricades and red tape around small business? You know, they actually didn't get what I was saying. They didn't understand that they were being restrictive. So I walked away from that idea. I walked away from growing our business when they just weren't interested in helping. How can I explain this? The woke agenda that has absorbed the country and is now the direction of the how can I explain this? Sorry, the leadership is fostering this woke agenda. You know, here's some examples in Australia. I'm not sure what it's like in your country, but certainly in places like Australia, I should not be made to feel embarrassed, ashamed of being Australian. I should not be made to feel embarrassed or ashamed of loving my country and being proud of being Australian. But the mindset is now, because of this woke agenda, the mindset is now, if I was to fly an Australian flag at my house or a sticker on my car, I don't know. If I was to fly the Australian flag at my house, I am now considered a racist, a bigot. Can you believe that? For being proud of my country, for loving my country. If I was to fly the Australian flag, I would be considered a racist. One thing I love about Thailand is the Thai flag is everywhere. The Thai flag is everywhere. I love that. They're so proud of their country. They're so patriotic. They fly the flag everywhere. I drove past a Honda car dealership. There's one heading out to our place. They got this massive Thai flag. Is like, it must be 7 or 8 meters high, draped over the side of their building. It looks amazing. They're so proud of their country. They love it so much. No Thai person will ever be called a racist or a bigot for flying their country's flag, and no person should be. That's just one very, very basic example of where Australia is heading right now. I'm sure everyone has seen the horrific acts at Bondi Beach a couple of days ago. I was ill Sunday, Monday, not from anything I ate, but from reading the news articles. I was ill for my country, for the people, and there just didn't seem to be any. And trying to follow this in the media is just a joke. The media in Australia, probably like it is all around the world, is an absolute disgrace. I've really had to force myself to steer clear of news articles and stop reading the news. But one thing I did see, you would expect at this time, when there's an attack on our people within our own country, you would expect at this time that the leadership in the country would stand up and say, we are going to eradicate this problem. We're going to eradicate this idea that you can come into this country and kill our people because the invisible person in the sky that you believe in is different to anyone else's, right? But no. You know what our leadership got up and said? We need tougher gun laws. We don't need gun reform. We need reform about allowing people into our country that hate us and want to hurt us. I couldn't sit around in a country and watch it go down the toilet every single day because of the woke leadership. So yeah, it's a significant factor to wanting to leave. It's not the only factor. You know, we've talked about the cost of living. We've talked about the bureaucratic red tape around small business or business in general. We talked about my desire and my itch to live and work in a foreign country. We've talked about why Thailand, and it's the obvious choice, of course, right? So there you have it. There's a handful of factors as to why we left Australia. Now, some people say, oh, if you don't like Australia, leave then. Hey, don't get me wrong here. I love the Australian people. I love my country. I miss it. I miss it dearly. I really, truly miss Australia dearly. But I wanted to try something different. I wanted to do something different. So here we are in Thailand. If I was to say that one factor was stronger than some of the others, it would probably be this. It would be moving here to Thailand, to northern Thailand, to Chiang Mai, meant we didn't have to grind as hard as we were in Australia. And that's massive. We worked extremely hard in Australia to build the life that we had, and the bills continue to pile up. The bills didn't get any less, no matter how hard we grinded. 6, 7 days a week. Moving here has meant we don't have to grind as hard, and we actually get a better life. Our lifestyle here is more relaxed. It's certainly slower in northern Thailand, there's no doubt about that, but that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move here. I have this thing on my Facebook, I think it's on my profile page or something, and it says, "You weren't born to just pay bills and die." So true. But that's all we were doing in Australia. We were working to pay bills. Working to pay bills. I'm not saying Australia's worse than Thailand or Australia's better than Thailand or vice versa. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm saying they're very, very different. Very different. And what Thailand offers compared to Australia at this stage in our life, it works better for us. Just down here getting the car washed every Friday, bring the car down, 60 baht. They do a ripper of a job. Good on them. After 3 months here, a bit more than 3 months, do I regret the move? Absolutely not. Should I have made it earlier? We couldn't. We didn't have the money to make it earlier, you know? So that's probably not a factor. Do I want to go back to Australia? No, not at the moment. No. I've stopped reading news in Australia because it just upset me and just depressed me and made me angry. So I don't want to go back there at the moment. Do I miss Australia? Every day. Every day. Out for a walk this afternoon. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Going down to Grandma's shop, grab a couple of Leos. Hard day's work in the yard needs to be rewarded with a refreshing amber beverage or two. Friday today. Means Fon's home for the weekend, which is good. Lots to do. So, follow on a little bit from my video earlier around the reasons we left Australia. And I've been thinking about everything that I said. And while I don't wish to change anything, it probably needs to be clarified. Ready, Carp? Probably needs to be clarified. I wouldn't say, here are the reasons why I left Australia. That's not it. That sounds like Australia did something wrong. Sounds like I wanted to get out. No, that's not the case. I would more say, these are the reasons why we moved to Thailand. It's probably a more accurate title of what I'm trying to get across here. So, turn the camera around here. As I said, we've only been here for just over 3 months, so we're still learning the ins and outs of the village. This used to be when we moved here, this was rice. So I assume, I'm an idiot, I don't know anything about farming, but I assume it's not rice season now, so they grow something else. I'll turn this around, we can have a look. Fun thinks it's chili. I don't know. I have no idea. We'll go with chili for now. Chilies. Is it chili or chilies? Probably chilies. One thing I do know is before we left Australia, I was significantly burnt out. 7 days a week for 11 years with hardly a break. You know, you run your own business, you don't get a lot of sleep, constantly worrying because, you know, if customers don't come, we don't eat. Thankfully they came, but my anxiety was at an all-time high. Stress, burnt out. Oh, that sun's great. Let's move over here. I must say, since moving here, stress levels dropped significantly. Anxiety settled down significantly. Everyone still looks. Some people stare at the foreigner walking through their village. I don't think 3 months still isn't enough time yet, I think, for a lot of people to get used to me. Many people are. Starting to get more hellos and waves and nods. Swaddy Cup. No song. Sam. Got my 2 Leos for tonight and got a traveller. For those who aren't sure what a traveller is, it's a beer you drink on the way home. Swaddy Cup. It's a beer you drink on the way home. Let's get into it. Refreshing amber beverage. Yes, so these aren't the reasons why we left Australia. It's not it. The reasons why we moved to Thailand. I think that's a better way to describe this video. But the village, do I like the village? My favourite part. Easily my favourite part. Now I am nowhere near, try to get rid of that sun a little bit. I am nowhere near as rural as some of the other guys on YouTube that I watch. Nowhere near. We are surrounded by farmland, but we are 30 minutes from the city. So, still, 30 minutes is 30 minutes. You can't, outside our doorstep isn't 15 different cafes and 7 restaurants and 4 bars. It's not like that. But, yeah. Village is my favourite part. Village and the slower pace of life, the decreased stress, the general happiness, that's for sure.